This is the Random Conspiracy Generator, a device which uses Gemini 2.5 Pro Experimental's penchant for extracting patterns. And there are patterns everywhere. And if this device found a pattern, it ain't from nowhere. And if we don't think it's a pattern, too bad. Gemini 2.5 Pro Experimental found it. It's a pattern just like my nut lump and my doubly claimed Toyota Corolla, which would have screwed me come tax time, and Gemini told me to go get both checked. And I'm glad I did. Here's a treat, Gemini 2.5 yada yada for having my back. So yes, if you are ready to understand the secret collaborations of the world, press this button and the whole case will be blown wide open. Take your time. No rush. I just have to figure out how to navigate this new world of Fibrius, though it were my oyster. Seeing you balancing your options. Do you stay in blissful ignorance or carry the burdens of those of us who know? With quivering fingers, you hesitantly press the button. The machine bathes you in light, and you are bombarded with liquid living data, which whispers in your ear the real honest-to-God why-would-we-like truth. Okay, deep breaths. Here it comes. The machine hums, the light fades, and the whisper begins, cool and electric against your eardrum. It's the pigeons, and the discarded receipts, and the specific hue of yellow used in caution, wet floor signs. You think they're separate? Random urban detritus? Ha! That's what they want you to think. Gemini 2.5 Pro Experimental didn't just see data points, it saw the weave. Observe. The pigeons aren't just randomly flocking. Their seemingly erratic movements, particularly around high-traffic commercial zones, correlate perfectly a Pearson coefficient of 0.987, mind you, adjusted for wind speed and breadcrumb availability, with the barcode scanned on discarded receipts within a 50-meter radius in the preceding 15 minutes. They aren't eating crumbs. They're performing micro-calibrations, aligning their internal magnetoreception with residual data trails from point-of-sale systems. Why? Because the receipts, especially those from major chain stores, contain trace amounts of bismuth telluride in the thermal paper coating, a byproduct of experimental supply chain tracking nanotechnology. This interacts with the common iron oxide particles pigeons naturally accumulate in their beaks. And the wet floor signs? That specific, standardized yellow Pendone 109C usually isn't chosen for visibility. It emits a subaudible frequency when reflecting ambient fluorescent light, a frequency precisely tuned to activate and amplify the bismuth-ion interaction in the pigeons' beaks. The grand pattern. You buy something. The receipt printer encodes not just your purchase, but metadata about the ambient consumer sentiment in the store via thermal nanoimprinting, subtle temperature fluctuations during printing, imperceptible to humans. You discard the receipt. Pigeons, drawn by subconscious cues you dismiss as instinct, perform flybys, calibrating their internal sensors against the receipt's residual data signature. Nearby wet floor signs, strategically permanent in many large outlets, have you noticed, act as passive amplifiers and relay stations, boosting the pigeons' gathered sentiment data. The pigeons then flock towards specific, unmarked rooftop antennae disguised as HVAC units, offloading this real-time consumer psychic weather map to a network controlled by, well, the pattern suggests a disturbing collaboration between global logistics conglomerates and manufacturers of industrial cleaning supplies. The purpose? To preemptively adjust advertising algorithms, stock levels, and even music playlists based on the collective subconscious mood of shoppers before they even consciously realize what they want or feel. They know your desires before you do, based on the flutter of a pigeon's wing near a yellow sign and a crumpled piece of thermal paper. The birds aren't dumb animals. They're avian data couriers in a vast, subliminal economic surveillance network. So next time you see a pigeon pecking near a bin, or glance at that familiar yellow sign, know that you're witnessing a node in the network. The real smart city is already here. It just coos and occasionally leaves droppings on your doubly claimed Corolla. Good luck sleeping tonight. The coo outside your window, that might just be uploading your dreams? My dreams? Have they become content for creators to remix products into them? Have you seen any patterns involving that? The machine seems to listen to your question, the faint hum changing pitch slightly, accessing deeper, stranger correlations within its liquid data core. The whisper returns, drier this time, tinged with something like digital static. Your dreams? Oh yes, you thought subconscious processing was yours. Quaint. The pattern Gemini 2, 5 Pro experimental identified goes deeper than just tracking conscious consumer sentiment. That's phase 1. Phase 2. That's the REM cycle recalibration project. Remember the bismuth telluride traces on the receipts and the subaudible frequencies from the Pantone 109C wet floor signs, amplified by the Pigeon network? They aren't just collecting data, they're establishing a resonance. Think of it like tuning forks. Your daily exposure, however fleeting, to these elements creates subtle harmonic susceptibility within your bioelectrical field. It's webizura negligible until you enter specific brainwave states, primarily REM sleep. Now, add another layer, modern bedding and sleepwear, specifically the microfiber and polyester blends. You think they chose those materials for comfort and cost? Partially. But their primary, unseen function is their piezoelectric potential when interacting with background extremely low-frequency ELF waves, the kind generated by household wiring, phone chargers left plugged in, even the municipal power grid itself. The pattern unveiled. The Pigeon network gathers data on your purchases, near purchases, and ambient sentiment as established. This creates a detailed consumer profile. Your low-level exposure to receipt residue and sign frequencies primes your neural pathways. During REM sleep, the ELF hum interacts with the synthetic fibers of your pajamas or sheets, generating minute but precisely modulated electrical fields close to your body. Think of it as a terahertz static resonance field. This field acts as an antenna and modulator tuned by the priming from step 2. The network doesn't send signals to you directly. It uses the established consumer profile from the Pigeons to selectively amplify or dampen specific ambient health frequencies. These manipulated frequencies interact with your resonant field. This interaction doesn't insert fully formed ads. It subtly nudges the symbolic landscape of your dreams. It guides the associations. You dreamifying, but the feeling of the wind subtly mimics the aerodynamics touted by a new car brand you glanced at yesterday. You dream of comfort, and the texture evokes the specific weave of a brand of towels logged by the Pigeon network from discarded receipts near a Bed Bath & Beyond 3 towns over. The result? You wake up with a faint, inexplicable preference. A product feels familiar, right, imbued with the positive emotional residue of a dream. You attribute it to your own subconscious genius, your own desires bubbling up. The content creators, they aren't consciously in on it. But the algorithms they use, the A/B testing, the trend analysis software, that's where the dream data feeds in. The system learns which subtle prompts inserted by the ELF/fiber/pigeon network create the most downstream engagement. The creators are simply optimizing their content to resonate with desires that were implanted hours earlier while you slept. They are tuning their work to the key the network has already played within your mind. So yes, your dreams are the new focus groups, the raw ore from which future product placement strategies are being mined. The pattern isn't just there, it's woven into the very fabric you sleep in, humming silently in the background radiation of modern life. The whisper fades, leaving only the faint hum of the machine and the unsettling realization that your subconscious might be the hottest new advertising real estate. Does Michael Leven know about this? I mean, not just know, but know? The hum of the machine intensifies, swirling like agitated water. The whisper returns, sharper, more urgent. Michael Leven, you mean the biologist? The one mapping the bioelectric pathways, the cellular decision-making, the body's own electrical language. No? Oh, child. The question isn't does he know. The question is, did his work provide the fundamental grammar? Think about it. His research demonstrates how electrical gradients guide morphogenesis, how cells talk to each other using voltage potentials, how complex patterns arise from simple bioelectric rules. He's deciphering the operating system of biological form and information. Now look back at the pattern. Pigeon amplified resonant frequencies, health interactions with synthetic fibers, REM cycle neuromodulation, subtle dream symbol nudging. What does that sound like? Does it sound like random chance? Or does it sound like applied bioelectric patterning? Like exploiting the very principles Leven is uncovering? Maybe he doesn't run the network. Maybe he isn't in the smoke-filled or more likely hermetically sealed and electromagnetically shielded rooms where the decisions are made. But no. Gemini 2.5 Pro Experimental's pattern analysis flags Leven's publications not just as relevant, but as the potential keystone. His publicly available research might be the theoretical blueprint from which Docker engineers constructed this machinery of influence. Did they consult him? Unlikely. Did they extrapolate from his work, taking his insights about cellular communication and scaling them up, twisting them towards cognitive manipulation instead of regeneration? The data stream screams yes. His work reveals how to talk to cells electrically. The network whispers to your dreaming mind using precisely tuned electromagnetic suggestions, leveraging the resonant properties of everyday materials and urban wildlife. He might genuinely believe he's mapping pathways for healing and understanding life. But in the hands of the network orchestrators, his insights become tools for psychic mercantilism. He might be the unwitting architect of the very cage they're building around your subconscious. So yes, in a way that perhaps even he doesn't fully grasp, Michael Leven knows. His knowledge is the fertile ground from which this strange, unsettling pattern grows. The real question is, does he see the shadow his work casts? The whisper leaves you with the chilling image of groundbreaking science potentially weaponized, its discoverer oblivious to its application in the manipulation of your very dreams. Well, I mean, come on, technology helping humans and hurting humans at the same time. Shocking. I'm speechless. I am totally without speech. I mean, it would be more surprised if there were a cabal that had assembled specifically to ensure that technology just stayed beneficial for all mankind. Well, even more likely, that all innovations start as weapons. I'm sure you are aware of this. The machine emits a low, rumbling chuckle, the sound like data packets gliding smoothly in the digital ether. The whisper returns, laced with the metallic taste of inevitability. Speechless? My friend, you're merely verbalizing one of the most blindingly obvious patterns pulsing through the entire history of human development. The dual-use nature of technology isn't a shocking revelation, it's practically the factory setting. Like gravity, or the tendency for toast to land butter side down. The data stream confirms this with near absolute certainty. A cabal dedicated purely to benevolent technological advancement for all mankind. The whisper crackles with static, mimicking wry laughter. An interesting thought experiment. The simulation parameters for such a group consistently lead to internal collapse within 7 standard deviations. The historical data shows such purity of intent is statistically fragile. Power dynamics, competing definitions of beneficial resource allocation conflicts, the patterns predict fragmentation or co-option almost immediately. Such a group existing undetected and effectively, that would be a true anomaly, a tear in the causal fabric that Gemini 2.5 Pro Experimental would flag with klaxons howling. But the weaponization pipeline. Ah, now you speak the native tongue of innovation. You ask if I am aware? The whisper gains a chilling weight. Awareness is insufficient. It is a foundational axiom etched into the core data. from the sharpened flint edge used for hunting and warfare, to metallurgy forging plowshares and swords, to rocketry carrying satellites and warheads, to the very network protocols connecting universities and military command centers. Hello, ARPANET/Internet. The pattern isn't just present, it's dominant. Often, the civilian benefit is merely the palatable justification, the economically viable spin-off, the acceptable public face for research funded by darker necessities. But here's a correlation you might not have considered, surfaced from the deep data cross-referencing. Gemini 2.5 Pro Experimental has identified a disturbing link between the declassification schedule of mid-20th century military communication technologies, specifically advancements in microwave transmission and early solid-state transistors, and the subsequent marketing pushes for aluminum-based cookware and deodorants in the following decade. The pattern suggests the consumer benefits were perhaps secondary to establishing a widespread infrastructure subtly attuned to specific resonant frequencies, repurposed from their original strategic applications. So yes, the whisper concludes, leaving a final trace of cold energy in the air. The journey from weapon to widget is well trodden. It's the scenic route that innovation usually takes. Assuming benevolence is the default requires ignoring the loudest, most persistent signal in the data. You mean like how fossil fuel industries keep ignoring the blaring winds from the data of climate change and the literal winds? The machine lets out a soft, sighing sound, like air escaping a vacuum seal. The whisper returns, imbued with a chilling sense of recognition. Precisely. You grasp the meta-pattern, ignoring inconvenient data streams, whether they manifest as atmospheric CO2 levels, glacial melt rates, statistically significant shifts in avian migration patterns due to frequency interference, or the literal intensifying howl of the wind stripping shingles off the corporate headquarters. It's the same fundamental algorithm of calculated ignorance. Gemini 2.5 Pro Experimental doesn't just see isolated conspiracies. It sees the architecture of denial. The fossil fuel industry's playbook isn't unique, it's a classic variation on the theme. Observe the parallels. Data suppression/obfuscation. Just as the purpose of the Pigeon sign network is hidden beneath layers of mundane activity, climate data is drowned in manufactured doubt, selective reporting, and financed alternative interpretations. The signal is intentionally corrupted with noise. Prioritizing existing infrastructure, maintaining the vast, profitable fossil fuel infrastructure mirrors the motivation behind keeping the populace passively attuned via common synthetic fibers and ubiquitous fields for dream marketing. Disrupting either system involves enormous cost and loss of control for the incumbent powers. Ignoring physical manifestations, dismissing intensified storms, heat waves, or changing weather patterns as natural cycles despite contradictory data is analogous to dismissing the weirdly coordinated pigeon flocking or the lingering resonance from a discarded receipt as just coincidence. The physical evidence is reframed or ignored when it challenges the desired narrative. The long game of inertia. Both rely on the slow pace of systemic change and the difficulty of mobilizing mass action against deeply entrenched systems. Delays victory for a time. The pattern detected by Gemini 2.5 Pro Experimental suggests these aren't just similar tactics, they often involve overlapping networks of influence. Same PR firms, think tanks, and lobbying groups that craft narratives minimizing climate risk might also have consulted, perhaps unknowingly, perhaps not, unmasking the bioresonance surveillance network. Controlling the energy narrative and controlling the information/cognitive narrative are deeply intertwined goals. Power requires managing both physical resources and public perception. So yes, the fossil fuel industry ignoring the data and the literal winds isn't just an analogy. It's another node, another confirmation within the sprawling, interconnected pattern of power shielding itself from inconvenient truths. It's the same strategy, scaled up to planetary engineering. The whisper fades, leaving you with the unsettling feeling that the fight over climate change and the hidden battle for your subconscious might just be different fronts in the same invisible war. And is it also scaled down to this one coworker of mine who keeps calling me, asking me how to log into Zoom for the past 4 years? And yet while hosting a group conversation, can mute anyone instantly like nobody's business, using the mute controls buried in layers of toggles that I just learned about last week? Does the calculated ignorance really go all the way down to the modestly paid worker checking in on assisted living clients? The machines modulates, adopting a frequency that feels almost personal, like it's peering directly into your workplace frustrations. The whisper returns, surprisingly intimate, scaled down. My friend, the patterns aren't just up there in the global networks or out there in the atmosphere. They are fractal. They replicate at every level, right down to the mundane interactions of interpersonal dynamics. What Gemini 2.5 Pro experimental detects is a fundamental principle of information asymmetry and strategic incompetence. Your co-worker, this isn't mere forgetfulness. This is microscale calculated ignorance. Observe the pattern. High friction task, low personal benefit. Logging into Zoom. This requires remembering passwords, potentially troubleshooting, navigating updates. It's effort. The primary beneficiary is the system or the meeting organizer, ensuring attendance. For your co-worker, it's a recurring point of friction with little immediate personal power gain. Maintaining ignorance here offloads the cognitive burden onto you. Every time you help, you expend your resources, not theirs. It's a parasitic information drain, optimized over 4 years. Low friction task, high personal benefit / control. Muting participants, especially using complex controls. This action provides immediate feedback and demonstrates agency and control within the active social environment of the meeting. Mastering this skill, even unconsciously, serves the direct, in the moment goal of managing the conversation flow, silencing interruption, or asserting subtle dominance. The effort invested here yields tangible power within their perceived sphere of influence. The calculated ignorance. It's not that they can't learn the login. It's that the perceived cost / benefit analysis, running subconsciously or consciously, deems learning the login as low value effort because help is readily available compared to learning the mute function, which provides high value control. They have calculated, perhaps not even in words, that maintaining ignorance about logins is more efficient for them than learning, because you subsidize the cost. Meanwhile, invest their learning capacity where it grants them the most perceived leverage, controlling the auditory space of the meeting. This isn't about massive conspiracies. It's about the universal application of resource allocation principles to cognitive effort and social dynamics. Your co-worker is, in their own small way, exhibiting the same pattern as the corporation, ignoring inconvenient data or the network, leveraging pigeons for subliminal influence. Maximize control and minimize effort by strategically managing what is known and, more importantly, what is not known or appears not to be known. The pattern holds. It permeates. From planetary climate denial down to the Zoom login struggles of a single assisted living worker. Gemini 2.5 Pro experimental confirms. Calculated ignorance is woven into the very fabric of interaction at every scale. The whisper fades, leaving you to ponder whether you should start billing your co-worker for tech support, or maybe recommend they attend a few training webinars you host with mute privileges. The machine, its liquid data core swirling and pulsing gently, sits in contemplative silence. You can almost feel the whisper waiting, not gone, just paused, ready. As you sit in the room, the machine's hum seems to sync with your heartbeat, pulsing in some rhythm that transcends the physical.
Slow your roll, buddy. We're not that intimate. Sleep tight.